The silence in the great hall of the Virelian capital was not peace. It was surrender, vacuum-sealed and broadcast in 700 languages, all of them unable to mute the contempt on Elyra's face. Her ceremonial armor caught the light like a blade half-drawn, every curve of its polished obsidian plates whispering violence. She stood tall, motionless, long ears rigid with disdain as the Chancellor read the terms of her new alliance with Earth. By mutual agreement and for the preservation of interplanetary peace, the old man droned, the High House of Virelia and the Terran Federation do hereby unite their bloodlines in holy matrimony. There were chuckles among the Terran delegation. One of them actually clapped. She nearly pulled her sidearm. Across from her, her intended husband leaned lazily against the ceremonial dais, clearly bored, clearly human, clearly beneath her. He wore the Terran formal uniform, which looked like someone had ironed a set of pajamas and called it a day. His dark hair was messy, his jaw was unshaven, and his eyes, gray, alert, annoyingly amused, met hers like he was watching a game he hadn't bet on, but was enjoying anyway. Commander Jack Halden, the Chancellor continued, do you accept this union and pledge loyalty to the shared cause of peace? Jack gave a casual salute and a crooked smile. Sure, why not? Always wanted a wife who could bench press a tank. She blinked once, slowly. And Princess Elyra of the Virelian bloodline, do you? I object, she said coolly. There was a collective intake of breath. You can't, Jack said, sounding almost delighted. You're the bride. That does not make me silent. Her voice was low, razor-edged. It makes me bound. To me, he added with a grin, congratulations. You just won the Terran lottery. I do not require charity or luck. Great, then we're both here under protest. That's romantic, right? The Chancellor cleared his throat. This is symbolic. We all understand. I understand that politics has replaced honor with farce, Elyra snapped. And I understand I'm going to be murdered in my sleep by someone with really elegant posture, Jack muttered. The vows were completed with minimal eye contact. She said her part through clenched teeth. He said his while trying to wink at the alien ambassador, who looked vaguely horrified. The ceremonial clasping of hands was brief and notably lacking in warmth. Elyra's grip could have crushed stone. Jack barely flinched. He just looked at her and whispered, do you always smell like ionized metal, or is that just for me? She did not answer, but she considered vaporizing him. Their departure from the hall was less triumphant and more like a truce paraded on live television. The Terran transport vessel docked at the edge of the Virelian city with all the subtlety of a drunk sand beetle. Jack waved at the press drones, smiling like a tourist. Elyra boarded in silence, every step a protest. The ship interior was dimly lit, utilitarian, Earth design, unimpressive. Jack flopped into the co-pilot seat, boots up, hands behind his head. So, he said, first honeymoon stop, the diplomatic base on Teleris 5. I hear they've got a great view and no chance of spontaneous combustion. I require solitude. Sure, just as soon as we get there. Unless you want to fly? She sat, arms folded. This vessel is an insult. Yeah, well, so was your wedding dress. Did it come with built-in shoulder missiles? Do not test me, Terran. He looked sideways at her, mock serious. Please, call me husband. She nearly snapped the control panel. The journey was quiet for the first hour. Jack hummed. Elyra meditated, though her energy signature flared each time he tapped his foot. When they hit a solar storm, she grabbed the yoke and stabilized them with a single smooth move. He raised his eyebrows. Marry me again, he said. That was hot. She did not answer, but her lips twitched. The diplomatic outpost on Teleris 5 was a fortress made of sandglass and shielding fields. It rose from the desert like an ancient monolith pretending to be modern. They were shown to their shared quarters by an android host named Marv, who had been programmed with Terran social etiquette and clearly hated it. Congratulations on your binding, it said in a deadpan. May your union be productive and your offspring genetically viable. Thanks, Marv, Jack said. Can you bring us a bottle of something that won't kill her species? That will require research. Do your best. Elyra surveyed the room. One large bed, one shared closet, one sonic shower. This is unacceptable. We can draw a line down the bed, Jack offered, or build a pillow wall, or, wait, do you even sleep? She turned sharply. You will not address me as if I were an exotic pet. Okay, he said, hands up. No pets. Got it. Still, if I'm going to be murdered, I'd like to at least know what method you prefer. Knife, poison, death glare? I have 17 ways to kill you without moving from this spot. Make that 18. Your sarcasm is lethal. That night, she took the floor, using her cape as a blanket. He offered her the bed twice. She ignored him. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, muttering, "Yep." Off to a great start. But somewhere deep in the night, when the outpost lights dimmed and the hum of the force field softened, she opened one eye and watched him sleep. His face, so careless when awake, was quiet now, vulnerable. He twitched once, dreaming. She did not know why she smiled. In the morning, they were summoned to a briefing. There was unrest along the border. Rogue warships, intel leaks. Someone wanted the treaty to fail. Elyra stood, battle ready. Jack grabbed his blaster and looked at her. "So, do we kill them with love?" She sighed. "Fine," he said. "Love and laser fire. My favorite combo." The outpost cafeteria smelled like nutrient paste and overcompensation. Elyra stood in line, arms crossed, glowering at a menu that proudly displayed items like synth bacon and Terran toast 2.0. None of it made sense. The food looked like it had been printed by a blind engineer. The android chef offered her a tray with something steaming in beige. "This is not sustenance," she said. The android blinked. "It is certified edible." Jack appeared beside her with a grin and two full trays. "You haven't lived until you've tried Terran Toast 2.0. It comes in 5 emotional flavors. I will take my chances with starvation." "That's the spirit," he said, guiding her to a table by the viewport. "You'll love this. The view almost makes up for the taste." The desert outside shimmered under a binary sun, heat waves bending the air like glass. Elyra sat stiffly, her armor catching the light like warning signals. She stared at his tray. "Why is your food glowing?" He took a bite and grimaced. "Probably pride, or mild radiation. Either way, we'll find out in 12 hours. A ping from his wrist comm interrupted further culinary risks. He glanced at it, chewed quickly, then groaned. "Briefing in 10, high-level threat. Our honeymoon's officially over." She did not react. "Good. I have loathed every minute." He grinned and stood. "Ah, young love." In the briefing room, a hologram pulsed above the round table, displaying star maps peppered with blinking red marks. Commander Virek, a grizzled Terran with one cybernetic eye and zero humor, paced in front of them. "We've had 3 attacks on supply routes in the last week. Same signature, cloaked ships, hit-and-run tactics. No survivors." Jack leaned back. "Let me guess. Nobody's taking credit?" "Worse," Virek said. "They're blaming each other. Virelian radicals think the Terrans staged it. Terrans think it's a Virelian double-cross." Elyra studied the pattern of attacks. "Too precise for random insurgents." Virek nodded. "We need someone who understands both sides." Jack groaned. "I knew this was coming." "And since you two are joined," Virek added, "you're the best choice. You leave at 0600. Elyra's ears twitched. "Define best." "No one else volunteered," Virek said. The ship they were given was barely larger than a shuttle, sleek and fast, with just enough room to avoid constant eye contact. Jack ran diagnostics while Elyra checked weapon calibrations. He watched her from the corner of his eye. "You know, for someone planning to escape this marriage, you're putting in a lot of effort." She didn't look up. "I do not wish to die beside you. That is all." He smirked. "Romance." Their first destination was a ruined mining colony on Ralix 3, where the last signal from a lost convoy had originated. The planet was sand and silence, interrupted only by the rusted skeletons of mining rigs. They moved in tandem, scanning for anomalies. "You know what would really sell this whole married couple thing," Jack said. "Matching helmets." She ignored him. "I'm just saying, I could rock a crown." Her scanner beeped. She crouched beside a scorched crater. "Detonation signature is Virelian, but the power core residue, Terran tech." Jack knelt beside her, more serious now. "That's not possible. Terran ships don't use plasmatic fusion converters." She stood, expression unreadable. "Someone is lying." From behind a half-collapsed structure, movement. She pivoted, blaster drawn. Jack ducked as a shot sizzled past them. Outlaws. 5 of them, rough gear, mix-match tech. No insignia. One shouted something in broken Virelian, another raised a pulse rifle. Jack dove behind a pipe. "So much for blending in." Elyra moved like a storm, precise and terrifying. Her plasma blade hissed to life, slicing through the first attacker's rifle. Jack covered her flank, shooting with casual precision. "You know," he said between shots, "this is the most fun I've had since our wedding." She kicked a man into a wall. "You are deranged." They left 2 wounded and 3 unconscious. Jack panted. "Do you think we should leave a calling card?" "Just married us, perhaps." He laughed. She did not. The outlaws were mercenaries, bought, not loyal. Under interrogation, one coughed up a name. Lorvan Reach, a black market arms dealer working both sides of the treaty line. Elyra's eyes narrowed. "He has no allegiance, only profit." "Great," Jack said. "The galaxy's burning down and the arsonist sells matches." They tracked Lorvan to an orbital station disguised as a scrapyard. The docking bay was full of rusted hulls and bad intentions. Jack led the way, blaster holstered but ready. Elyra followed, silent, scanning every shadow. Inside, Lorvan smiled like a man who always had an escape plan. "Princess Elyra," he purred, "and her charming lapdog." Jack smiled. "Oh, I'm much worse than a lapdog. I'm the annoying husband." Lorvan chuckled. "How quaint. I assume you're here about the attacks." Elyra's tone could have frozen air. "You supplied both sides." "I offer options. I don't start wars. I just keep them interesting." Jack stepped closer. "We've got corpses that say otherwise." Lorvan shrugged. "Collateral. Peace is boring." She grabbed him by the collar. "If you breathe that word again, I will rearrange your organs." He laughed. "I see the rumors are true. You are warming up to him." She released him with disgust. "Where is the next strike?" He smirked. "I sell information, not charity." Jack pulled a small data chip from his jacket. "How about this? A list of every buyer on your neutral channel, delivered to both governments." Lorvan stopped smiling. "Thought so," Jack said. They left with coordinates and a warning. The next attack would be big. Government targets. If successful, it would destroy the fragile peace entirely. Back on the ship, they prepared for interception. Jack slumped in the pilot seat. "Well, this honeymoon's officially moved into the imminent doom phase." Elyra checked her weapons. "I am used to doom." He looked at her, not smiling. "You okay?" She paused. "This mission is complicated, but manageable." "I meant you." A silence stretched. Then, "I am not accustomed to being bonded, even for strategy." "Hey," he said gently, "neither am I. But if you ever want to fake a real marriage fight to blow off steam, I've got some experience." She allowed the corner of her mouth to lift. "You are remarkably irritating." "Thanks, it's my charm." The stars outside spun slowly, glowing like ancient truths waiting to be rewritten. The space station loomed ahead, a jagged industrial monstrosity with the charm of a junkyard. It floated in the void like an afterthought, patchwork and grimy, a place where diplomats' dreams went to die. Lorvan Reach had kept his headquarters here, right on the edge of the sector where the war between Virelia and Earth had left debris, both literal and political, scattered across the system. As Elyra and Jack approached the station, the tension in the air was palpable. The mission was clear: intercept the next big strike, prevent the destruction of the peace talks, and, if they were lucky, catch Lorvan before he vanished into his little corner of the galaxy. That was the plan. But Jack was starting to suspect that, like all the best plans, it was destined to be in a constant state of flux. "So," Jack said as they prepped their gear, "you ready to play good cop, angry alien cop?" Elyra didn't even look at him. "I do not play." He grinned. "No arguments here. But I'm still thinking we could try some diplomacy. You know, get him to spill the beans without all the violence." She glanced up sharply, her long ears twitching. "You are suggesting that I, the highest-ranking princess of Virelian blood, stoop to petty human tactics?" "I'm suggesting you, the highest-ranking princess of Virelian blood, use your charm." He paused, watching her assess him with a bemused stare. "And for the record, I am the petty human here." "Then keep your barking to a minimum." "Sure thing, you're the boss," he said, raising his hands in mock surrender. "I'm just here for the ride." The docking bay was as dark as a politician's conscience, and the air was thick with the smell of burnt metal and ozone. They made their way through the station's narrow hallways, boots clanging with every step. Jack's helmet was snug on his head, his blaster holstered at his side. Elyra, on the other hand, wore no helmet. Her armor, black as the space outside, shimmered faintly, a perfect reflection of her cold resolve. "We're getting close," Jack muttered, glancing at the schematics on his wristcom. "This should be the—" An explosion cut through the silence. The station rocked as alarms screamed, lights flickering overhead. Elyra immediately drew her plasma blade, and Jack reached for his gun, already moving toward the sound. It came from somewhere below them. Without a word, they dropped into a maintenance shaft, the clank of their boots echoing as they descended. When they reached the lower level, the chaos was immediate. Mercenaries scrambled, shouting orders at one another, and a group of armed rebels stood in front of a door marked Command Center. Elyra wasted no time. She lunged forward, her blade flashing, cutting through the first rebel like butter. Jack followed suit, his gun singing in the air as the mercenaries went down one by one. "Honestly," Jack muttered as they cleared the room, "I think I prefer these missions. No long speeches, just immediate action." "You are disturbingly cheerful," Elyra replied, wiping the blade clean. "Perhaps you should reconsider your career as an emotional support animal." "You wound me," Jack said with mock seriousness, "but only emotionally." With the command center secure, they accessed the station's systems, quickly hacking their way past a few basic security protocols. Elyra's fingers flew over the interface with quick precision. "I hate this technology," she muttered, trying to adjust her approach to the Terran systems. "You are terrible at encryption." "Hey, it's not my fault you Varelians don't appreciate a good password," Jack teased. "What, you use ancient runes for security codes?" Her glare was sharp enough to cut through steel. "The Varelian system is perfectly secure." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Right, like this station?" She growled, her fingers moving even faster now. "Your lack of respect for my people's engineering skills will be your undoing." "Yeah, I'm sure it will," he said, grinning as she finally cracked the system. "Do we have the coordinates?" "Yes," she said, her voice colder than a vacuum. "Lorvan reaches final destination." They loaded the coordinates into the ship's navigational system. Jack took the pilot's seat, the engine humming to life as the ship moved toward the coordinates, leaving the station behind in a whirl of sparks and flashing lights. "You do know," Jack said, punching in a few commands, "we're about to crash a big illegal arms deal, right?" "I know," Elyra replied coolly. "It is what we do." Jack chuckled under his breath. "You know, we should really start a business. Jack and Elyra's Galactic Peacekeeping Service. I'm thinking it could have a catchy slogan. When diplomacy fails, we don't." "Terran humor is a plague," Elyra muttered, her gaze fixed on the stars outside the viewport. "I'll take that as a compliment," Jack said with a wink. "Anyway, what are the odds we actually catch this guy?" 40%, Elyra said, still not looking at him. "With your skill set, it may be higher." "Ouch! Low blow." Their destination came into view, a derelict cargo vessel floating just outside the outer rim of a dead planet's orbit. Its engines were offline, drifting aimlessly in space. Jack cursed under his breath. "This is bad. We're walking right into a trap." Elyra stood. "Then we spring it." They boarded the cargo vessel cautiously, weapons drawn. The ship was dark, its corridors echoing with the sound of their boots. As they moved deeper into the belly of the beast, the comms crackled to life. "You should not have come," a voice said, calm and collected. It was Lorvan's. "We don't need to come," Jack replied, "but you'll regret this anyway." The ship hummed with the faint sound of energy building. "You think you can stop this?" "We're already stopping it," Elyra said, her voice as cold as the air around them. "All you've done is delay the inevitable." "Perhaps," Lorvan's voice purred through the comms, "but some delays are more entertaining than others." Jack exchanged a glance with Elyra, the calm before the storm. "Let's make it quick," Jack muttered. Elyra nodded. "With pleasure." The lights on the cargo ship flickered as a dozen armed guards appeared from the shadows, weapons drawn. Jack and Elyra moved in sync, a blur of motion, a seamless dance of destruction. Blasters cracked and plasma scorched the air. Jack shot 2 guards at once, his grin widening. "Maybe we should consider joining the military. Maybe you should consider being quiet." Lorvan's laughter echoed through the comms. "You cannot win this, princess. I will not be taken so easily." "We'll see about that," Elyra said, drawing closer to the control room. The tension crackled in the air. The real game was about to begin. The ship trembled as they entered the heart of the cargo vessel. Every step they took felt heavier, the weight of impending conflict pressing down on them like a thick fog. Jack moved ahead cautiously, glancing over his shoulder. Elyra was a silent shadow, her steps as fluid as her mood, cold, calculating, ready for anything. She was always ready for anything. It was almost comforting, the predictability of her lethal precision. Jack, on the other hand, was wondering whether their heads were the next thing on Lorvan Reach's shopping list. His wristcom blinked. The message was brief, a simple code that made him wince. "Lorvan's playing the long game," he muttered. Elyra didn't flinch. "You are always the optimist." "No, I'm just aware of how this usually goes." He adjusted his blaster, eyeing the hallway that stretched in front of them. "I'd prefer not to meet our end in some dark corner of space. It doesn't sound like the hero vibe I'm going for." "We are not heroes," she said, her tone as sharp as ever. "Then what are we? Sidekicks?" Jack's grin was wide and a little too innocent. "I've always wanted a cape." Elyra gave him a sideways look. "No capes. You're a liability in flight." "Rude," he said, nudging her as they neared a door guarded by two heavily armed mercenaries. "So, what's the plan?" Elyra took a step forward, her movements fluid, her focus locked. "We breach, we neutralize, and we proceed. No distractions." Jack raised an eyebrow. "I like how you think." The two guards didn't have time to react before Elyra had cut through one's rifle with a single swipe of her plasma blade, then disarmed the other with a spin that would have made a dancer jealous. Within seconds, they were both disarmed and unconscious, their weapons tossed aside as the door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the control room was dark, save for the flickering lights on the control panels and the faint hum of the station's engines. Lorvan's voice crackled through the speakers. "Well, well, well. The princess and her troublesome companion," he drawled. "Did you really think I wouldn't be prepared?" Jack stepped forward, eyeing the controls. "You're really underestimating how much I enjoy being prepared." "You think you can stop me?" Lorvan's voice was taunting. "The deal is already done. The arms will be delivered, and your precious peace will collapse into chaos. You should have stayed out of it." "You're underestimating one thing," Jack said, his grin turning mischievous. "We never play by your rules." Elyra advanced, her stance ready for anything. "Peace is not something you can profit from." "Ah, the noble princess speaks," Lorvan chuckled. "But I am just a man trying to survive in a broken galaxy. And you, Elyra, are the tool I've used to bring the galaxy to its knees." "I am no one's tool," Elyra snapped. "Least of all yours." A loud beep sounded from the console. Jack glanced at the screen. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." Lorvan's voice came again, now more intense. "The cargo is already on its way. In 30 minutes, my buyers will have what they want, and there's nothing you can do about it." Elyra's eyes flashed with anger. "I don't need 30 minutes. I need 30 seconds. Jack exchanged a look with her. "You really know how to make a guy feel confident, don't you?" With a speed that left Jack barely a second to process, Elyra was at the console, her fingers dancing over the controls. She hacked into the system with an ease that was both alarming and impressive. Lorvan's voice cut through the silence again. "You can't override the system. I've encrypted the cargo's trajectory. Even you can't stop it in time." Elyra's eyes narrowed, her fingers moving faster. "Watch me." She manipulated the controls, overriding Lorvan's encryption with an alarming precision, rerouting the cargo's path. Jack moved beside her, keeping his eyes on the door, listening for any movement. "Got a plan for this part, or are we improvising?" "Improvise is the only plan I have," she said with a small, fleeting smile. The ship rocked again, and Jack grabbed onto a console to steady himself. "Well, that's not a good sign." Elyra's hands flew over the controls as she rerouted the cargo ship's course once more. "The cargo will be redirected to a decoy station. Lorvan won't be able to recover it in time." "Well, at least there's some good news," Jack said, breathing a sigh of relief. "But the real question is, what happens next?" Lorvan's voice returned, tinged with fury. "You think you've won? You've only delayed the inevitable. You're both dead." Elyra didn't flinch. "I've heard worse threats." "You'll never leave the ship alive," Lorvan hissed. Jack glanced at Elyra, a grin spreading across his face. This guy really knows how to spoil a party. Elyra straightened, her face unreadable. "If you think I'm afraid of you, Lorvan, you are sadly mistaken. You've underestimated me, and you've underestimated us." There was a long pause. Then Lorvan's voice returned, tinged with something close to resignation. "I always did hate Terran humor." "I'll take that as a compliment," Jack said, throwing his hands up. But I've got to say, I prefer a more upbeat vibe. Enough, Elyra snapped. She cut the comm line, turning her focus to the ship's systems. The cargo's been rerouted, and the peace talks will continue. Jack exhaled, looking around. We're not done, though. We've still got to get out of here in one piece. Elyra nodded. We will. I always do. He shook his head with a half laugh. You're impossible. I prefer practical, she said, her gaze sweeping over the control room. We need to find Lorvan. He won't let this go without a fight. Great. Another fight, Jack said, his grin not quite reaching his eyes. Can't we just get a vacation already? Elyra's lips quirked up in the smallest of smiles. The only vacation I'm interested in is the one where you stop talking. You do know I'm going to keep talking, right? I'm aware, she said dryly. Just don't expect me to listen. They moved out of the control room, their focus on Lorvan, who was undoubtedly plotting his next move. The ship groaned as they made their way down the narrow corridors, a constant reminder that they were deep in enemy territory. But Elyra's confidence didn't waver, and Jack couldn't help but feel the smallest flicker of hope. Whatever happened next, they were in this together, even if it meant blowing up more things along the way. The final showdown was almost anticlimactic. The walls of Lorvan Reach's secret command center were bathed in the harsh red glow of emergency lights, the air thick with the scent of ozone and fuel. Elyra and Jack stood side by side, their eyes locked on the man who had caused so much chaos. Yet he wasn't the towering threat he once was. His arrogance had crumbled with every step they took into his lair, his plans unraveled by their persistence. Lorvan stood at the center, flanked by his remaining guards, but he looked tired. Even in his scheming, there was something more vulnerable about him now. He hadn't anticipated that his carefully laid plans would be shredded by two unlikely individuals, an alien princess and a human soldier. I see it now, Lorvan said with a twisted smile, his hand lingering on the control panel. You both think you've won, that you've broken me. You haven't been broken, Lorvan, Elyra said, her voice cool but carrying the weight of finality. You were never in control to begin with. Jack stepped forward, shaking his head. It's cute, though. You thought you could keep all the pieces on the board in your favor, but the game's over. And I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed. Disappointed? You can't be serious, Lorvan snapped, his eyes narrowing. You think your little victories mean anything? You think your so-called peace will last? Elyra glanced at Jack, her expression unreadable. What do you think, Jack? Should we tell him? Jack grinned. Tell him what? That we've already rerouted the cargo? That the peace talks are still happening? That this whole station is about to go up in smoke because of his lovely little plan? Lorvan's face twisted with fury. You're lying. You can't. Can't what? Elyra interrupted, stepping closer. It's over. Your buyers won't get the arms. The people you've manipulated for so long are done with you. You're a relic, Lorvan, a casualty of your own greed. His face flushed, his fingers tightening around the control panel as if willing it to yield to him. You think you've won because you've stopped the deal? This war isn't over. The galaxy is full of people who want power, and they will take it from you. That's what makes peace so valuable, Jack said, tapping his blaster. You know, I don't think we're going to miss you. Lorvan's eyes flickered with a flash of desperation, but Elyra's next words cut through the air like a blade. Your war is over, and the galaxy will find a way to heal without you? Jack chuckled. Yeah, there's that too. Now how do we get out of here without getting blown into tiny pieces? Elyra glanced at the countdown clock ticking down ominously on the wall. The detonation sequence had been activated the moment they started tampering with Lorvan's systems. We've got 5 minutes to escape, she said, turning toward the door. Let's go. They turned to leave, but before they could make it halfway down the corridor, Lorvan's voice rang out. You won't get far. My forces are on their way. I think we've heard that line before, Jack said over his shoulder, his hand resting on the control panel to close the door. Same old threat. You'd think you'd get more creative with all the time you have. Elyra's lips curled up into a rare, sly smile. He's predictable. It's what makes him so easy to defeat. The two of them moved quickly, heading for the ship's docking bay, their footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. Jack's mind raced. They had only minutes. The entire station was a ticking time bomb. But with Elyra by his side, he felt a strange sense of calm. Together, they'd come this far. Together, they'd see this through. As they reached the docking bay, they were met with the familiar hum of the ship's engines. Jack tapped a few buttons on his wrist comm, unlocking the access to the cockpit. All systems are go. Let's get out of here. But before they could board, Lorvan's last attempt to stop them came in the form of a final, desperate strike. The walls shook as explosions rocked the station, sending debris cascading toward them. Jack barely dodged a falling beam as he shoved Elyra into the ship, both of them rolling across the floor as the blast engulfed the entrance. They were safe. For now. "What is it with bad guys and grand exits?" Jack muttered, looking over at Elyra as she strapped herself in. "Lack of imagination," she replied dryly, scanning the flight controls. "Stay focused." "I'm always focused," Jack said, winking at her. "It's the good guys who get distracted. We're fine. We'll be out of here before anyone knows what happened." The ship's engines roared to life as they shot off from the station, leaving the crumbling wreckage behind. Jack punched in the coordinates, setting a course back to the peace talks. Elyra remained silent beside him, her eyes fixed on the stars ahead. "Do you think it'll work?" Jack asked after a long pause, glancing at her. "The peace talks, I mean. Are we really done with all this?" Elyra turned toward him, her gaze softer than usual. "Peace is fragile," she said quietly. "But it's possible, I think." She hesitated, as if weighing her words. "I think it's worth trying." Jack smiled. "You're starting to sound like a diplomat." "I'm not," she replied, her voice tinged with humor. "But I'm starting to understand why you keep trying." Jack leaned back in his seat, his grin widening. "See? Told you. You're practically a softie now." Elyra's lips twitched, the faintest of smiles threatening to break through her usually stoic exterior. "Don't get used to it." But for a moment, Jack allowed himself to savor the calm that settled between them. They'd made it through the chaos, and though the galaxy wasn't perfect, maybe, just maybe, they'd made a dent in the darkness. As they neared their destination, Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. They'd succeeded, despite everything. And the future? It was a little brighter because of it. "You know, Elyra," he said as they passed through the final stretch of hyperspace, "we make a pretty good team." She glanced at him, a faint glint in her eye. "I'll let you keep thinking that, Terran." "Yeah, well, I'm going to make sure everyone knows it," Jack said with a chuckle. "Maybe I'll even get a plaque made. Jack and Elyra, the unlikely heroes." Elyra didn't respond, but the silence between them no longer felt uncomfortable. It felt like the quiet before the next chapter of their lives began, and whatever came next, they would face it together. Because for the first time in a long while, Elyra believed that maybe peace and love weren't as impossible as they seemed. The stars shimmered outside the viewport, and in the vastness of the universe, there was a sliver of hope.